Do I look like a fancy boy in these clothes? You're dang right I do, and I don't know how to dress myself. This is all thanks to our sponsor, Stitch Fix. They've reimagined how to find and buy clothes, and you never have to leave the house. You can play Friday the 13th all day long and let them do the work for you. It's that easy. Just go to StitchFix.com and tell them your sizes, your favorite type of clothes, and how much you want to spend. Your personal stylist then gets all to work, and she's in there doing hard stuff, and he's picking up stuff, and he's putting on pictures. I don't know how he or she does it when they get it, but they pick clothes for you. 5 items are then delivered right to your door. You try them on at home, and you only pay for what you keep. Shipping free both ways, so anything you don't want, you just send back, and exchanges are always free too. You can get your fix monthly, quarterly, or whenever you feel like it. There's no subscription required. It's easy. The shipping is free. Why not give them a try? I promise you'll be hooked. Look how good I look. Get started now. Why? Actually, look how good I look if you're on YouTube. If you're an ad person, just take, if you're a person on the MP3, take my word for it. I look really good. Get started now at StitchFix.com/Greggy, and you'll also get 25% off when you keep all five items in your box. That's StitchFix.com/Greggy to get started today. StitchFix.com/Greggy. Look so good, Gia will leave Tim for you. That's my goal.
You know what? I can give you a personal example of this. When we were growing up, you know, all we had was like the console at home and the movie theater and what was on television, right?
Sure.
These are literally 3 outlets by which we can be communicated to, right? There's 3 outlets for which we can consume the shit that we love. 3. And of that, the movie theater was this temple. And why was it this temple, right? Was this temple because that was the one place you could go and you could see effectively art with no boundaries, without commercials, right? Because you watched, if you watched Friends on television, you know, Ross wasn't gonna like blow his head off.
That would have been an amazing episode.
It would have been an amazing episode. But the thing is, that was
today in a very special episode of Friends.
I can vouch, by the way, that never happens in Frasier because I have watched all seasons of Frasier. He never blows his head off in that.
And I don't mean blow his head off just for shock value, right? But it wasn't, the point being, Friends was never going to deviate from the script because of commercials.
Right.
Ultimately, these television shows existed to sell blocks of advertising. Things never changed after the Colgate Hour. Right? The Colgate Hour being this hour blocks of television that were sponsored by various brands. Television was that. The movie theater was where you went and it was a dark place. It wasn't necessarily safe because sometimes you'd be exposed to scenes and points of view that maybe were outside of your frame of reference, so to speak. And what has happened slowly over the past 10 years is the movie theater has become a giant commercial. Cinema, film, is a giant commercial, but what they're selling you is the next version of that intellectual property. Iron Man 2 exists to sell you Avengers. Avengers exists to sell you these Ant-Man and Spider-Man spin-offs, etc., etc., etc.
Sure.
Right? Television is still the commercial model. It still exists to sell you commercials. But there's this advent of this new platform, streaming technology.
Sure. The digital era.
The digital era, right? Where effectively, you know, it's this disruptive force, but it's not just a disruptive force because, oh, you can put anything on Netflix and, oh, we can binge. It's not just the binge watching. It's not just it's all of that. It's all that. It's the ability to on demand, watch it whenever the fuck you want. But the real key here, the real key to the future of streaming technology is the biggest flaw in entertainment since its inception has been it costs way too much money to identify a potential customer to a product. Right?
Interesting.
That is the problem, because they'll spend $200 making the film, and they'll have to spend $200 marketing the film. Then there's the Jason Blum, who's like he's a brilliant businessman. He's a Blumhouse. So,
yeah.
If you watch horror movies, they make 85% of them. He perfected the model of, okay, we're gonna make Insidious for $3, and we're gonna spend $30 marketing it. So they're literally spending more money trying to sell you the product to get you to watch the thing than they are in actually making the product, right? So now that's just a reality of the time we live in. But what digital technology is slowly doing is it's reducing the cost of identifying, of matching a product or a piece of content, however you want to call it, or a piece of art, with the consumer base that would watch it.
Is that because, do you think of all consumers in some way now as advertisers in the digital age, right? Like if I see something, if I see one of your videos and I like it, right? I go share it, and I'm sharing, and I mean like me as Greg Miller with a Twitter following, I mean me as a normal Twitter person. I share it with an audience that's following me because they're like-minded, and then they share it, and like we're all out there sharing things together in these communities that can actually talk for a change.
Absolutely. You're sharing things, but also your site, it's psychographics, your profile on like what you watch, what you buy, where you buy things, your what timing you're online. It's all of our accounts are slowly getting interlinked, right? Like most people make most of their purchases through credit cards, which are again also interlinked. So it's happening now, and pretty soon, even though when I say pretty soon, it's literally happening as we speak, the streaming company is going to know, hey, you are the perfect audience for this show.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that is like you take a Netflix, right? And you've got, it's no coincidence that Netflix has been flooding its platform with stand-up comedy specials. Clearly those are resonating with its audience. And so they've gone ahead and said, we're going to double down on this, and we're going to give everyone who's any notable of a name who's got a decent hour special to throw it out. Well, hours hard. It's really hard, right? But so there's only a select few of people that can really do that. But let's give them all the opportunity to do this, right? And you've got HBO also kind of in that game, and now Amazon's floating with that game a little bit too. But I think so it's fascinating. So I guess what you're I think alluding to is the fact that these platforms are helping to eliminate that barrier to entry, or that need to find the audience because you've already got that built-in audience there. Right?
I think you bring up a good point with the stand-up comedy though, because Netflix I now look at as a stand-up comedy machine, where I look at it and I think in the same way that I look forward to the next Marvel movie because I know I'm interested in Marvel characters. I look at that, I'm like, I've never heard of this guy, but I'm gonna watch it because it's the new Netflix original stand-up. Right. So it absolutely works. That takes the marketing out of it, because it is the marketing. The content is the marketing at that point.
Right. But that also changes the nature of which content, let's call, I hate the word content because
I hate it too, but it's the only word that really all encompasses everything.
We make content here.
We do make content.
Yeah, I'm really not trying to make content. I define it as I'm trying to make dope shit.
Yeah.
So get the fuck out of my way.
We don't make dope shit here, sir. We just make shit.
But
that's what we.
But when I talk to business, people, I have to call it content, because otherwise they're like, well, he said he wants to make dope shit. I'm not entirely
they call
certain
it legal.
what he
They're like,
meant.
do we make dope shit here? We're not sure if this is the place to make dope shit.
Sir, we're a dry cleaner.
And he called us a bunch of pussy bitches and suits. Why was he calling us suits? I'm not wearing a suit. I'm wearing khakis today.
Yeah, today's Casual Friday.
But yeah.
Here's the question. Who the fuck are you? Because like
I have no idea, dude.
We're still.
I have no fucking idea.
We're not leaving until we get to the end of this.
Calum, who is a fantastic actor,
great actor,
on the
you just
lead
blew my
body.
mind because I just finished American Vandal last night.
But, yeah, on American Vandal, he's great.
Yeah.
And I said, Calum, how do you see me? I asked him this in Toronto, and he's like, oh man, I just see you as an artist. And
yeah, so that's my thing, is if I had to define you.
Okay,
because that's always fun.
That's cool. I like that. It sounds better than any you know.
Yeah, I would say you're a creator, right? And I think that term is starting to be a little bit more legitimized, right? Like, for instance, I was talking earlier today and yesterday about how I just finished Dirk Gently. We had the pleasure of having Max on the show last week. The very first credit is created by Max Landis, right? Like created for the screen by Max Landis, and I think that's going to start taking on more and more importance, especially as there's so much more content. Again, now that word's got it's like a dirty word.
Get over it. Come on,
there's so many more shows
bros.
that are being delivered across the board, right? Especially TV right now. Like TV is having this amazing renaissance of like TV is the place to be if you want to be creative, or at least online streaming is. So that I think that there's going to be, like, from what I'm seeing is there's going to be, you know, with television, there's never really necessarily like the auteur that there is with the movie. Or with the movie, always the director, they get credit, like the actor gets a little more credit. But now you're getting these showrunners that are coming in, these people who are creating these series coming in, and they're the names that I think are going to be starting to have a lot of cachet going forward, or at least that's what I'm noticing.
Yeah.
If you would ask me, I would just say executive producer, because that is one of those titles that no one actually knows what it means.
And that's the thing is, I don't know.
It's cool.
You're a producer on all these different films and stuff, right? And like, I don't know, what does that mean?
Because to me, but then to answer your other question of one word, vision. To me, executive producer is the vision, and it's the person that is kind of going to work with the directors and producers and writers and all that stuff, and kind of be like, this is what I want to make. This is my vision.
Well, you know, but at the same time, like using Bodied as an example, right? That wasn't my vision. It was not my vision.
So was that come from Joseph? Who did that come from?
300% from Joseph, right?
And so he comes to you and says, "I got this thing," and you go, "I got it. You're gonna be a big stock." I'm sorry, I tried to bring that joke out.
No, actually, you know, I was off directing a show,
Which we can or can't talk about. I forget. Where are we at with that?
We can talk about.
We can talk.
We
about
can
that.
talk about. We
Plug
just can't
it.
talk about where it's going.
Right.
But,
Plug it. Plug it. Real quick.
Yeah, it's called Adi Shankar's Gods and Secrets. Very humble that my name's
I love
in the
it.
title.
I'm a big fan. Now, I need to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Earlier, I walked in the room. First thing you said to me was, "Are you guys big wrestling fans?"
Yeah.
Does that show have to do with wrestling?
No.
Okay. I thought I had an aha moment,
There's
and I
wrestlers in
didn't.
it.
Okay, cool.
Who's in it?
Who?
DDP.
Yeah, all right.
yeah, all
DDP,
right.
Yeah, doing some yoga.
Hell yeah.
Does he do
So
yoga?
what is it?
DDP yoga.
Now I asked him this earlier at lunch, and he says to me,
I literally took a
I
long
can't
pause.
tell you what it is, because if I told you what it is, it would spoil how awesome it is. Like, it would spoil it for you.
He's paraphrasing the quote.
That's meta, and I like that.
Right.
So
It's
you're
really
an
dope.
artist.
I mean, I'm.
It's
you
dope
know,
shit. As long as it qualifies as dope shit.
It's dope shit.
You did it.
It's dope shit. You know, otherwise, I'm not one of these guys who's trying to just kind of like make stuff and churn it out. Right. I don't know how to do that. Like I feel like maybe I would benefit from taking more of a sausage factory approach
little
to
more
this
structure.
stuff.
You need
Right?
advice.
To be
Ask
like,
us.
well,
We're really good at it.
Yeah, we are really good at churning out a
but,
lot.
no, this is a project that's very personal to me.
Your name's in it.
Yeah. So is this 300% your vision?
Yeah.
You're fascinating. You're like a Rubik's cube.
So how many,
It
wait,
keeps
how many
turning the
projects
sides.
do you
I'm gonna
have
get you.
going at any given time? Like right now, how many projects are you focused on, or at least which
So right
projects
now-
are keeping you up at night?
Right now, I have 4 going at the same time.
4. You've got the second season of Castlevania that you're overseeing.
Yep.
Bodied just got awarded. We got 2 awards, TIFF and Fantastic Fest.
We got one
Congratulations on
Audience
those.
Choice Award. Thank you.
So
Thank
we're
you.
so
I
that
cannot
that's
wait to watch that movie, by the way.
Yeah, Tim, by the way,
it is dope. I mean, it's a dope film. Again, it's 300% Joseph Kahn's vision. You know, I'm and obviously Marshall Eminem. You know, I'm lucky to be a part of that whole ride. I mean, yeah.
And so you're a producer on that.
yeah. Mhm.
And so what does that mean? Joseph Kahn's like, I need help making this film, and you give him money? Is that what a producer does?
He raised all the financing himself.
so why?
He-
So he just wanted to collaborate with you on it, knowing what?
Yeah,
like, what
I mean-
did you bring specifically to the table that Joseph?
Honestly, Joseph and I talk about this at night, like, 'cause we generally like chat at like around 2 a.m. every day or every other day.
That's so LA.
Just kind of, because we're both up really late.
Sure.
You know,
Are you both on your beds in your pajamas, like feet
What
up
are
in
you
the
doing?
air? What you doing?
What are you
like
wearing?
kicking your legs?
It's totally like that.
I have this in
It's
my
totally like
no,
that. I
in
mean,
my
it's-
brain they have bunk beds, right? And it's at 2 o'clock. It's
okay.
like, hey man, you still up? Yeah, I'm still up.
What if it was
Yeah.
like big and they had walkie
Be
talkies?
like,
Yes, that would be amazing.
you know, we have an interesting relationship because there's also the age difference, but he's one of the few guys I've met in my life. You know, who we're tapped into the same thing. And we speak similarly. We're just so similar,
Right.
right? He's the first guy in my life where I was like, wow, man, I wish we knew each other growing up because we would have just hung out every day.
He's your best
It's
friend.
nice.
BFFs.
So we are BFFs, yeah.
Okay, good.
Greg, I wish we were
and
there.
on that, you know, on the film, you know, he told me the concept. He said, "Look, I want to, you know, do this movie about battle rap." And I said, you know, great. And you started, you know, telling me the beats of it, and I was like, "Yeah, it sounds like a sports movie." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "It's a sports movie," you know. And I
Gave the frame of reference.
gave him the frame of reference. So there was that, and then it went into production,
And so your producer credit comes from bouncing ideas off of him, and being there for him, and sounding board, and going
yeah, I
over?
guess. I mean,
Okay.
he basically was like, "Look, will you?"
Cosign.
Yeah, effectively, you know.
Are you involved in the battle rap scene at all, or like a fan? Like, are you into that? Is that like a culture that you know intimately?
No.
So what's interesting about this, from what I know of you guys, you are the Power Ranger guy.
Yeah.
Joseph Kahn, not at all
Right.
the Power Ranger guy. So you came and you're like, this is what we're doing, and he just made it happen based on the vision of all of it, and he had no idea about Power Rangers
Right.
at all. Is this the opposite of that then,
Absolutely.
where he is involved in that and
Absolutely.
loves it, and you're just kind of there to make it happen?
Absolutely. I mean, the film has some of most of the top battle rappers today in it.
And that's what I think is so cool, is watching the trailer. Like,
These are real
it's,
battle
It's
rappers.
easy to watch, like, to hear about the concept of this movie and be like, I saw 8 Mile. Why would I want to watch this?
Right.
But then you see it and it's like Dumbfounded's in it, and Kid Twist wrote it.
Yeah.
And it's like, these are guys that are actually doing this, that have made what modern rap battles are in the
Yeah.
last 2 decades.
It's authentic to the culture.
Yeah.
It's about the culture. It's not made at the culture. You know, there's a level of authenticity that exists in the film that would only exist because the people who made the film, other than myself, are either a part of the world or fans of the world, right? Even Marshall, Eminem, he came up through battle rap. Like, that's like, before he was the, you know, Eminem the music star, he was Eminem the battle rapper. He was the guy you didn't want to get in the ring with because he would destroy you.
Still is, but yeah.
Still is, right? So yeah, I mean, I basically got a more like a front row seat and an introduction into this world because of this film. And obviously Joseph, you know, he's a legend in the movie business. I mean, in the music video business.
Backstreet Boys videos.
Everything,
Britney Spears videos.
everything. Early NWA. I
Recently,
mean, he's
Taylor Swift videos.
literally
obviously.
the biggest music video director of all time. When it comes to just hit after hit, generation after generation, it's just he's never slowed down.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah. I love following him on Twitter too, because I'm just like I love Twitter because it gives you that little glimpse into people's lives. And when her new video dropped, it's just like you could see there's still that level of he's just a mega fan, you know, like he still has that like connection to like, this is fucking cool what I get to do, and that's always fun to see.
And he's genuinely like that, right? He's genuinely plugged in. He feels everything, right? He's engaged with pop culture in a way that most people stop being once they leave the strike zone of that age group.
So you mentioned you were thinking about leaving. Obviously, you didn't leave the industry, which is good because you gave us some great stuff since. Do you have a project that you're like, this is the project that I want to do above all else? Or have you already done that project and now you're on to the next
Well, you're
thing?
saying there was 3 and we cut you off. First was Power Rangers. What were the other 2?
So I'm going to answer your question first.
Fantastic. Thank you for that,
Yes,
because
first.
let's be
Yeah,
honest.
I appreciate it.
Also,
You know, it's
you gave me the high five though. You were there for me, bro.
if you guys are ever in LA, hit me up. Love to have you over
Be
to,
careful,
to,
'cause
to
we'll
my
just-
place, because you'll see that I have literally notepads just with ideas, concepts, shots, scenes, scribbled everywhere, right? So there's not one dream project. It's not like, man, I really want to do this Hard R Captain Planet idea, or which is a legitimate thing.
Hell yeah, it is.
Because really, how would that
More
have played
child soldiers,
out, right?
by the way.
No. They would have been no, not child soldiers. They would be labeled eco-terrorists because everything that Captain Planet was about happened. Everything that show warned us was going to happen. Our entire generation. They said, "Hey, don't do these things because this is going to happen." It happened.
So it's like a horror flick, and Captain Planet's just tearing people in half. Like
No.
It's
It's
I
close-
told y'all, motherfuckers.
right through the chest of these guys.
No,
cutting down the Amazon.
it's a dystopian. You know, we live in a dystopian time. So to set Captain Planet today is to make it dystopian.
Interesting.
Right?
Is Captain Planet a force for good in this universe? Is he trying to change it back to?
Honestly, he's hardly in it because the Planeteers have
Gone their separate
have
ways.
gone their separate ways. Linka's dead. And Mati doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's taken over a whole island. He has a big beard. He's old. He's ripped. And he's got, like, gorillas who are just kind of soldiers. And he's been turned into, like, the new, basically into Bin Laden by the government, right? But he's able to harness the heart power so he can spy. He's basically also the NSA, so he can spy on anyone and everyone. So I have a scene in there where they're, like, the president's in this bunker, you know, and SEAL Team 6 is going in to take him out. And as soon as they end up on this island, they get ripped apart by gorillas and, you know, trampled by elephants. And Mati walks up to the camera and he's like, no, fucking, he stamps it. And they're like, how the fuck did he know? And you cut back to the bunker and the president's there. And he's like, how the fuck did he know that he was coming? And they see an ant in the room and they start freaking out. And they're like, dude, fuck, kill that ant.
That's fucking awesome.
So,
God damn it. Just tell us everything about the notepad. Every notepad.
And Wheeler, you know, the fire guy, he becomes basically the Punisher. Like, his ring still works, and he's out, like, he's like fucking lighting motherfuckers on fire, right? Because
That's what you do when you have a ring that can produce fire.
Yeah.
right. Well, and he's also
When you've seen
protecting.
everybody
He's
not
also
listen to you.
protecting a little girl who he finds in a brothel, who the wind ring is drawn to, and he realizes once this girl comes of age, she can activate the ring, and they can summon Captain Planet again. But again, Mati's broken off, so they don't know, like, you know, if they can even. Mati, was he going to kill us, or is he going to fucking work with us?
This sounds really cool. You should
So,
make,
but I have notepads of all of these things, right? I have a show that I'm developing at the moment with my good friend Phil Joannou, who directed The Punisher: Dirty Laundry,
Oh, nice.
and we want to shoot that next year, right? And I would say that's a passion project too. The bottom line is, the moment I stopped giving a fuck, that's the moment I quit, because I never got into this for the cash. It was never a cash grab. It was about making dope shit, because I had two problems with most of the content I was watching when I was a teenager and right before I moved out here, and which is why I moved out here. It was, one, most of the movies were not about anything. They felt empty and hollow. They felt like action pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget the second one.
Well, no, you say something interesting there. Talk to me. I now you're this big shot artist guy making all
really
these
not
things.
a big shot.
Yeah, you
No,
are.
you
Yeah,
are.
you
No,
are.
you
You're
are
a big
to
shot.
us.
You're.
Do I
you are
act
to
like
us.
a big shot?
No. I don't mean.
No,
I don't mean
he
it in
doesn't
that
mean
sense.
that.
I mean
You're
the
more
fact.
than
shot.
in a bad way.
Which
Yeah.
is a cool thing. You're
Wait, is
not.
it cool?
You are. Yeah. You're
You
the
just
modern-day
called
fat
Eminem
Hollywood dude.
Marshall. You know, that's what I mean.
Well,
like,
no,
you know what I
but
mean? Like,
to-
you know people. You're making awesome fucking things.
Yeah.
You have notepads with amazing Captain Planet shit on
You
them.
guys were like helping me write emails before this. I'm
And
really
that
not
was
pretty
our
cool.
pleasure, and we
Yeah.
said we'll give you the phone number if you ever need help again. Just call us. We'll conference you, and we'll figure it
No,
out.
but I love that though, because it's like, to me, I look up to you as the type of guy that has cool ideas and wants to get shit done. And I appreciate that you will talk to us and be like, hey man, like, what do you think about this? And it's like, that's how fucking things happen.
Yeah, and just to
Trusting
clarify,
people
to
around.
define big shot in my brain, and granted, I know that has kind of a connotation behind it, but I think what we admire about you is the same thing I admire about a lot of my friends that are creating stuff, which is that when you get to a level where you can work at your level and still be able to get the things done that you want to get done, that's really cool. That's really admirable, and that's something that I think is, to me, the dream, right? Like, I love following people who get to just do the things they want to do. And I know I'm oversimplifying your life because I've seen the stress that you go through a little bit, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you put the work working for sure. But like if you were to say, Nick, what's happiness look like for you? I would say nothing in my day that I don't want to do. And I get constantly challenged by new levels of projects that I think will make me a better creator, a better person, better whatever, you name it. Right. And I think that's what we see in you when we look at you. And so that to me is like, not necessarily big shot, but big time. Like that is, you're operating at a very high level and you're able to still make great art. And that's fucking cool because you don't see that all that often, right? Like you could probably name, I could give you 10 directors off the top of my head. We won't do it now, but like out of all 10 of those, maybe one of them gets to do the project that he really wanted to do, and it turns out the way he really wanted it to turn out, right? And then, but I go and I watch Castlevania, and I'm like, this is, I could see your hands in that, right? I could definitely tell that there was like your influence was on that, and that's really cool.
I genuinely really appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. That means a lot.
Well, it's like it's great. It's hopeful because what you're saying is, you know, what everyone kind of feels, which is that a lot of the way things have been done, a lot of the way television has traditionally been done, a lot of the way films have traditionally been done is, I don't want to say dying because I hate that word. I don't think things are dying. It's evolving. It's evolving past the mediums that our parents and their parents loved. And what that means now is it's really hard to define, which is cool. But it's also super scary.
Well, that's
right?
where content comes from.
Well, exactly. That's why people say content. But what I'm talking about is more like, even just look at the way TV was made, right? It was either done in like 30-minute chunks or hour chunks, right? You know, 22 minutes that you had to make a content, or of the show itself. But now you don't have to worry about that anymore, right? But that in and of itself right there is fucking mind-blowing.
Right.
Because you can make like when Netflix released House of Cards, right? And the first episode was like 51 minutes. Everyone was like, whoa! Like, but it really was a big deal because you're like, oh, you can just, if you need those extra minutes to really tell that story beat, you got it. And that's scary. That's weird because that means like, is this train going to come off the rails? Like, what's going on? I don't understand.
What it means from I guess my perspective, not what it means, what it's meant from my perspective is Spielberg, Lucas, that whole generation. They effectively created these blueprints. Right? They created these blueprints, these magical blueprints. Close Encounters, Jaws, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. And it's more than just those two guys, but that entire generation. They created this stack of blueprints that became these wide release theatrical American
the Hollywood
blockbusters, right?
Right.
Some of them weren't intended to be blockbusters. They just became massively popular. And these blueprints since that time have been perfected. They've been narrowed down. And they've become blueprints. They've become legitimate blueprints that, you're saying, okay, buddy, Greg, we need you to just direct a Star Wars movie. Here's the blueprint.
Just follow
They're not saying, Greg, you got great ideas. Let's go do something interesting in the Star Wars universe, right? Let's go shake up the formula. They're saying, here's the formula. Don't fuck it up.
Yeah, do it.
I think Iron Man 3 is a perfect example, right?
Or the two current Star Wars movies that are in production.
Which again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, right? When you have the blueprint, you know it works, and you're executing it well.
Sure.
And when I was younger, I used to just go like, fuck you. The rebel in me would just flip off the man, and I've come to realize, like, look, these are like mega corporations, right? They're like these massive conglomerates. Like they have to do the middle of the road version of it. They just have to. Their ecosystem is set up in such a way that if they don't do it, it's a massive problem, right? So they are powerless. It's not like they're choosing to make these middle of the road movies. They're powerless to do anything but the middle of the road movie.
That's what they have to do to survive and keep all these employees going.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
But what our generation has the opportunity to do for the first time, right? Because before the Hollywood machine controlled three things, three parts of the puzzle that if you didn't have them, you couldn't fucking make a movie, right? One was the technology, just things like the cameras, the lenses, all that shit. Like if you were an independent filmmaker anywhere in the world, like you just didn't have access to the best technology. So whatever you made wouldn't look good. Two, they had they controlled all the stars, right? So like if you didn't have Tom Cruise or Keanu or Schwarzenegger or one of those guys in your movie, it didn't matter how good it was. It wasn't going to be viewed on the same level as a movie with Tom. And three, they controlled the distribution, right? So even if you made the greatest film of all time, you couldn't get it seen by anybody because they controlled the distribution. I mean, they literally had the throttle on that fucker, right? So it was very hard for independent companies to get studio level distribution. Then guys like you came in, guys like me to some extent, who started going, all right, cool. Well, I'm just gonna put this shit on YouTube, see what happens. And all of a sudden, the distribution went away. The whole idea of this mythical movie star, this unicorn movie star that's gonna grace us with their presence once every year and a half, 2 years, with a new film, and everyone's gonna line up because Tom's in it, or because Brad's in it, or Keanu's in it. That started going away.
Even
right?
The Rock doesn't work.
No one works because the reality is the curtain's been lifted, right?
Holding out for Jumanji. We're holding out for it.
The curtain has been lifted, and technology.
Has it been lifted?
And technology
100% though?
and
got it right here.
technology. You cannot discount the technology because literally, you right here. If we flip this around and we look back there, you have all the equipment necessary to make an independent film.
I have a lot of people ask me, how to break into online media as an industry. Where a lot of people, obviously, where we used to work, IGN is a great company, and a lot of people want to get in there.
Do you need
and I
anything?
have,
Yeah, that'd be
What do you
dope.
want?
Just like coffee.
coffee.
Should I have a coffee? Am I too amped up?
No,
No, you're perfect. This is great.
I'm on your level right now, which is great.
This is great.
But yeah, I always give
I'm not
people
gonna
this.
get hate tweets from you fuckers, am I?
No. Our audience doesn't hate.
no,
I
you.
didn't mean to call you guys fuckers. I love you guys.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like ask me over the years, like, what skills do I need to like get into a place like IGN? And some people are like, I really want to be an editor, and I'm like, well, you have to understand that those skills. So back in the day, if you learned editing, like that was a specialized skill that you knew if you could get into the industry, you'd have a great job and get paid a lot. But that skill has since become the tools are so accessible now that I'm like, you almost don't want to pigeonhole yourself as an editor because anyone who is 18 or 15 or 12 who started on YouTube has started using those skills. And so maybe not to disparage editors, especially film editors, because that is a high art form. But like if you're doing online media, I'm like, there's zero barrier to entry anymore. So like you have to think a lot more of like, you got to learn camera work, you got to learn editing work, and you got to learn all these things that it takes to create one video. But then that's exactly what you're saying. Like then you just have the basis to build on that, and there's really no excuses.
And we saw the exact same thing play out. This exact same scenario, right? Because you know that quote, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
History keeps repeating itself. Read back to the creation and the evolution of the printing press.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find these crazy parallels.
Oh yeah.
And they're not necessarily crazy because it's the same thing.
That's
there was a
technology, right?
communication medium that was the written paper that was then revolutionized by this powerful tool called the printing press, which allowed people to mass produce text into these little books and allowed ideas to spread.
So for you, where are you? You said, what made you move out to Hollywood.
Yeah.
It was that you're looking, you're like, oh, well, this is empty. They're not telling stories anymore.
Well, and I
That's
wanted to communicate. I viewed this as a communication tool because, again, we talked about this earlier, how I grew up in India. Born in India, grew up there, lived there till I was almost 5 and a half.
What part?
Calcutta, then Madras,
Okay.
and then Bombay. And then we moved over to Hong Kong. Singapore. It's just my life was this hodgepodge of countries and various cultures and never really fitting in. And the one common narrative thread was some of these characters, some of these movies, right? That everyone, like, all of a sudden, I could talk to people about Captain Planet or Wolverine,
Sure.
or Power Rangers. I could just literally have a conversation. I was like the new kid in school. I was in a new culture, but I could all of a sudden relate through these fantastical cultural myths that our generation shared in, that all bought into together, and it allowed me to communicate across cultures. And that's why when other folks in entertainment are like, man, Netflix is ruining everything. Like, we need the theatrical window and we need the this, and why, why is all the... My response to that is, yeah, they might be killing the revenue streams. Maybe, maybe, I don't know. We'll see how that shakes up, right? Because the whole idea of like, it's out, but you can't watch it because it's behind the paywall, I think that's a slightly dated way to look at this. But the bottom line is, what these streaming services are doing, Netflix, all of them, is because you're releasing content now. Let's just call it content for the sake of today, right?
Okay.
What they're doing is they're taking this content and they're allowing it to be viewed at the same time worldwide. So what they're doing is they're helping bring the world together, because all of a sudden now the whole world is watching the same stuff. Sure. So the reference points, the cultural reference points, the differences that in theory divide us start getting obliterated.
Thanks for watching the Game Over Greggy Show. Click here to subscribe to the channel. Click here to support us on Patreon. Click here to watch other episodes. And click right down there to watch Cooking with Greggy, my cooking show. I really need you to come watch it because I like doing it, and Nick won't let me do it if it's not more successful.